There are moments in life that change everything, not because of money, power, or success, but because of one small act of kindness. Sometimes, the person standing beside you at the hardest moment becomes the person who changes your entire world. This is the story of a single father and a successful CEO. Everyone thought they were husband and wife. She never corrected anyone. Instead, she simply smiled. But the reason behind that smile would touch more hearts than anyone could imagine. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps us share more stories that remind people that kindness still exists in the world. Daniel Carter was 36 years old and raising his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, by himself. Life had not been easy for him. He worked as a mechanic in a small repair shop and spent every free moment taking care of Lily. Every morning, he prepared breakfast, braided her hair as best as he could, and walked her to school before going to work. His life was simple, but he loved his daughter more than anything else in the world. One rainy afternoon, Daniel rushed to Lily's school after receiving a phone call. Lily had slipped while running across the playground. Fortunately, her injury was minor, but she was frightened and crying. As Daniel carried her to the nearby hospital, he accidentally bumped into a woman standing near the entrance. The woman quickly reached out to steady Lily. "Is she all right?" she asked gently. Daniel apologized and explained what had happened. The woman smiled warmly. "There's no need to apologize," she said. "Let's get her inside." Her name was Victoria Bennett. Daniel had no idea that Victoria was the CEO of one of the largest technology companies in the city. She was dressed simply, without expensive jewelry or a team of assistants around her. To Daniel, she seemed like an ordinary woman with kind eyes and a calm voice. Victoria stayed with them while the doctors examined Lily. When Lily finally smiled again, Victoria looked relieved. "You must be an amazing father," she said. Daniel laughed softly. "I try my best." Over the next few weeks, Daniel and Victoria met several times at the hospital because Victoria was visiting her elderly father, who was receiving treatment there. Every time they met, Lily's face lit up with excitement. Victoria always brought books, puzzles, or small toys for her. Slowly, the three of them became friends. One evening, Victoria joined Daniel and Lily for dinner at a small restaurant. As they sat together laughing, the waitress smiled. "You have a beautiful family," she said. Daniel nearly dropped his glass. Victoria simply smiled. She did not say a single word. Daniel looked confused. Later, he asked why she had not corrected the waitress. Victoria looked out the window and said quietly, "Sometimes happiness feels nice, even when it lasts only a few seconds." Daniel did not know how to answer. A few days later, the same thing happened at a grocery store. An older man looked at Daniel and Victoria and said, "Your daughter is wonderful." Again, Victoria smiled. Again, she said nothing. Daniel finally gathered the courage to ask her why. Victoria's expression became serious. "My work has taken over my entire life," she said. "I have spent years building my company. Somewhere along the way, I forgot what it felt like to come home to people who cared about me." She glanced at Lily, who was happily eating ice cream nearby. "When people think we're a family, I don't feel lonely." Daniel suddenly understood. For the first time, he realized that wealth could not protect someone from sadness. Victoria had a beautiful house, expensive cars, and a successful career, but she often sat alone at the end of each day. Meanwhile, Daniel had very little money, but his heart was full of love. As time passed, their friendship grew stronger. Victoria began spending weekends with Daniel and Lily. They visited parks, watched movies, and shared stories about their lives. One afternoon, Lily looked at Victoria and asked an unexpected question. "Why do you smile whenever people think you're my mother?" The room became completely silent. Victoria knelt beside her and gently touched her shoulder. "Because I think you're very special," she answered. Lily smiled. "I think you're special too." A few months later, Daniel's repair shop ran into financial trouble. The owner announced that the business would close. Daniel was devastated. He worried constantly about paying rent and taking care of Lily. When Victoria learned what had happened, she immediately arranged a meeting. Daniel assumed she was going to offer him money. Instead, she surprised him. "My company needs someone to manage vehicle maintenance and repairs," she explained. "I know how hard you work, and I trust you." Daniel stared at her in disbelief. "You would do that for me?" Victoria smiled. "You once told me that kindness costs nothing." "I never forgot that." Daniel accepted the position, and his life slowly began to improve. Months later, the hospital where they had first met organized a charity event. Daniel, Lily, and Victoria attended together. As they walked into the building, one of the nurses recognized them immediately. She smiled warmly. "It's wonderful to see all three of you together again." Then she looked at Victoria and Daniel. "You know, I always thought you were married." Victoria laughed softly. This time, Daniel smiled as well. Neither of them corrected her. Lily simply held both of their hands and grinned from ear to ear. At that moment, none of the labels mattered. What mattered was that three people had found friendship, support, and love in unexpected places. Life has a funny way of bringing people together. Sometimes, family is not defined by blood. Sometimes, it is built through kindness, patience, and the willingness to stand beside someone when they need you most. And sometimes, all it takes to change a life is a smile that says, "You are not alone." If this story touched your heart, remember that the smallest act of kindness can create the greatest change. You never know whose life you might brighten with a few gentle words, a helping hand, or a warm smile. Perhaps the world becomes a better place not through grand gestures, but through ordinary people choosing to care for one another every single day.